In the dawn of history, among the cold stones of the Roman Empire, rises the figure of a man who became a symbol of hesitation, judgment, and condemnation: Pontius Pilate, the procurator of Judea. It was under his command that the most enigmatic and transformative of trials took place, the one that led to the crucifixion of Jesus of Nazareth. Pilate, according to the accounts, found no guilt in the prisoner before him. Yet, pressured by the clamor of the crowd and by fear of provoking Caesar's wrath, he delivered the man to the cross. The scene, wrapped in dust, sweat, and blood, forever marked his memory. He might have washed his hands before the crowd, but he never succeeded in washing away the weight of his decision before eternity, and thus begins the mystery of his tragic fate. Some ancient writings claim that after the crucifixion, Pilate's life was never the same. He was said to be haunted by relentless nightmares, hearing at night the echo of Jesus' voice and the shouts of the crowd, crying, "Crucify him." His wife, according to some apocryphal accounts, was also plagued by visions and spiritual warnings, sinking into despair. According to Eusebius of Caesarea, a Christian historian of the 4th century, Pilate could not bear the weight of guilt and ended his own life in Rome during the reign of Caligula. Yet his death was not seen as ordinary. Many believed he had been consumed by torment, driven mad by the memory of the just one he had condemned. But the legend does not end there. In popular tradition, especially among certain peoples of Europe, it was said that after his death, Pilate's body was denied rest. His corpse was supposedly cast into the Tiber River in Rome, but the city was struck by storms and calamities, forcing the Romans to remove it. Then it was thrown into the Rhone River in Gaul, but once again misfortune fell upon the region. At last, his body was taken to a lake in the Swiss Alps, known today as Pilatus, where his soul was believed to wander, restless and unredeemed. There, among mist-shrouded mountains, people claimed that tormented spirits manifested, and that Pilate's shadow still emerged, as if seeking to justify his act before an invisible tribunal. Shepherds and travelers told of seeing dark apparitions, hearing murmurs of voices rising from the icy waters. Other, even darker accounts claimed that Pilate had been delivered to demons, condemned to eternally relive the moment when he washed his hands, but never succeeding in removing the blood he believed was not his. Thus, the fate of the man who ordered the crucifixion of Jesus became shrouded in darkness and secrecy. Some saw him as a mere pawn in the machinery of the empire, others as a coward who yielded to the pressure of the crowd. Yet in every version, one truth lingers: he never found peace, and the most unsettling of all is that his story does not fade. Centuries later, the question remains: was Pilate a victim of circumstance or an accomplice to one of humanity's greatest crimes? His name echoes as a warning to all who seek to escape moral responsibility, for neither the washing of hands nor the power of Rome was enough to free him from the burden of his fate. Among the dust-covered pages of history, there are figures who seem condemned not only for their actions, but also for their omissions. Among them rises the shadow of Pontius Pilate, the Roman governor of Judea, the man who found himself face to face with the most enigmatic prisoner of humanity, Jesus of Nazareth. He found no guilt in him, declared him innocent, and yet delivered him to be crucified. Here lies the dilemma that hangs like a fog over his memory. Was the weight of his death and condemnation just? If he himself had nothing against Jesus, the dilemma of justice. Pilate, according to the Gospels, did not desire Christ's death. On the contrary, at several moments he attempted to release him, offering the custom of freeing a prisoner during Passover, or even having him flogged in hopes of appeasing the crowd. His own wife, tormented by dreams, is said to have warned him not to involve himself in that judgment. And, in a symbolic gesture, he washed his hands, declaring he was not responsible for the blood of that righteous man. But the gesture was nothing more than an empty symbol. In practice, Pilate had the power either to release or condemn, and he chose condemnation. He washed his hands before men, but not before history. The weight of responsibility. Here lies the heart of justice. Was it right to punish him, even though he had declared Jesus innocent? Some would say no. After all, Pilate was a ruler caught between the fury of the crowd and the threat of Caesar. He did not act out of hatred, nor out of personal interest in Christ's death, but out of fear. Fear of losing power, fear of rebellion, fear of displeasing the emperor. Yet others would argue that precisely in this lies his guilt. For true justice is not measured by the absence of malice, but by the courage to act in favor of what is right. Pilate knew of Jesus' innocence, yet preferred to sacrifice the righteous man rather than risk his political position. His cowardice cost a life that changed the world, the judgment beyond death. Christian traditions and popular legends claim that Pilate suffered a tragic fate, disgrace, torment, suicide, and even the curse of finding no rest for his soul. Was that unjust? Perhaps it is not a question of justice in the human sense, but of moral consequence. For even without hatred toward Jesus, he actively participated in his execution. Divine justice, many would argue, does not judge only intentions, but also choices. And Pilate's decision, though born of fear, placed him among those who sealed Christ's fate. Final reflection. Thus, the death and condemnation of Pontius Pilate cannot be seen simply as punishment for a lack of hatred, but as the inevitable consequence of the weakness of his choice. It is true that he did not hate Jesus. It is true that he did not wish his death. Yet by yielding to pressure, he became an accomplice to the most striking injustice in history. And here emerges the deeper answer. The true question is not whether it was just that Pilate suffered. The true question is whether any man, having before him the chance to save the truth, can ever escape the responsibility of having denied it. The story of Pontius Pilate is not merely the account of a Roman governor faced with a difficult decision. It is, in truth, a timeless mirror that reflects the human tensions between fear and courage, power and truth, convenience and justice. He did not hate Jesus. He had no personal reason to condemn him, and he even tried to avoid responsibility by washing his hands before the crowd. Yet his neutrality did not save him, because in decisive moments of history, neutrality is also a choice. By yielding to the pressure of the people and the empire, Pilate assumed the role of accomplice, even if unwillingly, to an act that would echo throughout eternity. Whether it was just or not that his life ended in torment, legend, and disgrace may not be the central issue. More important than judging Pilate is understanding the lesson his story offers. Silence in the face of injustice is itself a form of participation in it. He represents the man who knew what was right but preferred to preserve his power and position rather than face the consequences of a just decision. Thus, his figure remains marked by paradox. He declared Jesus innocent, yet authorized his crucifixion. He tried to avoid responsibility, yet became its eternal symbol. Therefore, the justice that fell upon Pilate should not be seen only as divine punishment, but as the natural consequence of his own choices. Whoever abandons truth in order to preserve himself becomes a prisoner of his own cowardice. The dark fate that tradition ascribes to him, suicide, curse, eternal torment, is not merely a story about the end of a man, but a universal warning. It reminds us that no political power, no symbolic gesture, and no excuse can erase the moral responsibility of our decisions. And that is why Pilate, even after washing his hands, never truly cleansed them.